Today on Commander Replay, Iroas God of Victory marches face first into an infestation of zombies. Can Iroas prevent the zombie apocalypse? Find out next on Commander Replay. Hey guys, I'm going to take a second to say thank you to my awesome Patreon supporters. You guys are awesome. If you want to help support the channel and vote on which decks I play next, feel free to check out my Patreon at the link below. So before we get going on today's video, as I'll point out a few times throughout the video, I've been doing a little bit of a case study on Iroas and I've been playing a lot of games with a lot of different deck lists. And so that led the wrap up for this video to be a little bit longer than usual, but if you're looking to build an Iroas deck, there's a lot of helpful tips in there. Also, if you're just looking to build Boros decks in general, I'll put a timestamp in the description below for that. Be sure to check that out. Lots of helpful stuff there. But anyway, let's get into the video. Welcome back everyone, playing some Iroas God of Victory today. So I've been doing a little case study on Iroas because I think it's one of the Boros decks that people struggle to build the most. A lot of people sort of fall into a trap, which we'll talk about in a little bit with Iroas. I like this deck. This deck was submitted to me by a user on Twitter named Chris Bates, and I like how they built this deck, so I think it was worth showing off. Anyway, let's take a look at our opening hand. We have 2 lands plus this Orescos. I think we can keep that. No green opponents. We're not on the play, though, so that should be all right. Wait for everyone to slam their 3rd land, then play this Orescos, and that'll get us 3 lands. That'll be pretty sweet. So like I was saying, a lot of people build Iroas, and they try to build it like they would build Red Deck Wins in Standard, and that just doesn't work. You can't be trying to get damage out of your 1 and 2 drops. I know this feels really counterintuitive to a lot of people, but you actually want to go mid-range or even late game with Boros, because that's the only way you're going to get enough damage from your creatures to actually do the 120 damage that you need to take down your opponents. Trying to get there with 1 and 2 drops, it's not going to work. You're not going to be able to punch out that much damage with them. And the other problem too is that, the more creatures you slam into play, the more likely you are to see board wipes from your opponents. If you use 2 or 3 really high quality creatures, opponents not necessarily going to slam a board wipe if they have stuff in play that they're going to lose too. If you have like 5 or 6 creatures in play, they will absolutely play that board wipe, and you'll probably be empty-handed at that point and really not have a lot going on and likely lose the game after that. So like I said, I've been doing a case study in Iroas. I've played, I think, about 5 Iroas decks that I found from Tapped Out, and I've played probably almost 10 games with them at this point, and I've won like 1 or 2 of them. For a lot of these reasons that I've mentioned, that I think people just went with the wrong deck building concept when trying to build Iroas, and I like what Chris did here. He called this deck Boros Big Boys, and as you'd imagine, it's a bunch of big late game stuff that hits really hard. It's got a lot of board wipes. It's not going to be about the Lightning War right here. It's going to be about trying to ramp up, get a lot of mana, and then slam some really big stuff, and kind of go over the top of what our opponents are doing. Anyway, so for those that aren't familiar, Iroas is 2 red-white for a 7/4 enchantment creature god. It's indestructible. It's not a creature if its devotion to red and white is less than 7. It says creatures you control have menace. A lot of people forget that one. And you'll see a lot of people try to move to block on Magic Online, not remembering that all of your creatures will have menace. And then the other one is prevent all damage that would be dealt to attacking creatures you control. That's actually a really good ability, because that means that your creatures can attack even though it wouldn't normally be profitable for them to do so. Like if you have a 3/3 double strike and I don't know, there's like a 7/7 or something huge hanging out on the other side, an indestructible creature, anything like that, you can still just keep swinging away. So that is a really cool ability on Iroas, and I definitely enjoyed that. So we're going to lay this land down right here. We're actually going to wait till next turn to play our Orescos. Question is, do we Enlighten Tutor at the end step? And we might. Let me take a look. Let's see what we got for enchantments and artifacts. Enchantment-wise, we have Assemble the Legion, Legion's Initiative, and Smothering Tithe. Smothering Tithe is really good. Smothering Tithe is like absolutely insane. Artifact-wise, we have some ramp cards. We have a Mind's Eye for card draw. That's interesting. Sensei's Divining Top, Sunforger, and a Staff of Nin. We got a couple interesting choices right there. Mind's Eye is good in that it draws a lot of cards, but it is really slow. Though, Oloro probably has removal for Mind's Eye, which is not the best. Johnny's Pridemate coming down, sure. With Mind's Eye, I'm not a huge fan of it in aggressive decks, because in an aggressive deck, you're trying to tap out your mana to play big aggressive things every turn. Mind's Eye is a card that requires you to hold up mana, so it works better if you were doing more of like a blue counterspell instant speed sort of thing, but blue already has so much card draw that, it doesn't tend to make its way into those lists. So, yeah, it's much better if you're doing like a more control-based, reactionary, instant speed kind of thing. It's not the best with Boros because you're essentially tapping out for 2 turns to draw cards with it, which is a long time. Now, I think it could work in a deck like this, and based on our opponents, I'm going to Enlighten Tutor for the Mind's Eye, actually, because we have Oloro. Oloro's going to draw a lot of cards. We have Varina. Varina's ability is going to draw a lot of cards, so I think it's actually going to be pretty good right here. And, I mean, there are a lot of reasons that people do draw cards in a game of Commander, but again, Mind's Eye is just so slow and mana intensive. Now, I do think that this is the deck that can make up for it, because we're running like 6 board wipes or something like that. So, you know, even if we take a couple turns off to Mind's Eye a few times, you just lay a board wipe down after that. You should have a lot of cards in hand and, you know, start playing your stuff into an empty board. So we'll give that a go. But like I said, I've been not a huge fan of it over the years because it's so slow. Like I said, you're probably taking 2 turns off to actually use it. So we draw into the Mind's Eye. We're going to play a Rest Ghost right here. Someone actually missed the land drop, which is kind of frustrating. The Oloro missed the land drop, so we're only going to get 2 additional lands right here, but 2 is better than nothing. So we'll grab the Sacred Foundry and the Mistveil Plains. Nothing to do with the mana, so play the Mistveil Plains and pass the turn. Taking a look at what our opponents are playing, first up we have Varina Lich Queen. Actually, so just taking a quick look at everything, we have an Esper deck, and a blue-black deck. So lots of blue-black from our opponents. Little nervous about probably a lot of board wipes. 2 zombie opponents, which is interesting. Gisa and Geralf and Varina, both on the zombie plan. Oloro, usually a control life gain deck and just going to run all the removal. Can be pretty frustrating to play against. Someone described it as, when you play Oloro, you start the game at 60 life. Yeah, that sounds about right. It is really hard to do enough damage to actually take an Oloro out of the game. Like, you probably need to run them out of cards before you can really do much of anything, but I don't know, we'll see how it goes. Hopefully opponents put some focus on them for a little while to keep their life total at least around 40, because it starts getting higher than that. It is tough to alpha strike an Oloro opponent. Anyway, so taking a look at Varina Lich Queen, Varina out of Commander 18 is 1 an Esper for a 4/4. Whenever you attack with 1 or more zombies, draw that many cards, then discard that many cards, you gain that much life. Interesting in that it's a life gain zombie commander. And then pay 2, exile 2 cards from your graveyard, and create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. So very good at filling up the graveyard. Has a loot ability staple to it. So opponent can cycle through their deck pretty quickly, and you can do some stuff. There's that one black-white zombie that causes life loss that can be kind of an issue as the zombie army starts to pile up. So, yeah, Varina is not a bad little commander from what I've seen. It can be pretty threatening, so we'll need to watch out for that. Oloro, I talked about a little bit already. Life gain and all the removal. Heavy, heavy control. Really difficult opponent, one that's given me so much trouble over the years, though. Playing a Revitalize, this may not be the most hardcore Oloro deck I've ever seen. It's kind of talking for a while. We should actually get caught up on what's on board. We'll start with Varina. Varina has a Reconnaissance in play. Very cool enchantment. Remove target creature you control from combat and untap it. Now, you can do that at the end step, after damage is dealt, which means you can essentially give your creatures vigilance, but also if you want to swing out, an opponent blocks a creature that's going to die, you can save it from dying, so very cool. They also have a Commander Sphere in play. The Oloro laid down in a Johnny's Pridemate and then played the 3 life gain spell. So the Johnny's Pridemate, now a 5/5, and they have a Johnny's Mantra and Spellbook in play. So it looks like they might be going a little bit more life gain focused instead of the usual just, you know, hard control route. And then finally we have a Gisa and Geralf. Is 2 black-blue, enters the battlefield, mill the top 4 of your library. During each of your turns, you may cast a zombie card from your graveyard. Gisa and Geralf is usually the Zombie Storm deck, where you get like Gravecrawler or something like that, and cast it a million times from the graveyard, and then play some sort of storm card with a million triggers on it. So we need to be careful of Gisa and Geralf. I don't know how much graveyard removal is in this deck, so that might be an issue for us. Brings it back to our turn. We draw into a Commander Sphere. Commander Sphere is good. Play the Sacred Foundry untapped. Do we just play Iroas, or do we play the Commander Sphere? I think I'm going to go for the Commander Sphere right here. Just in case we don't make a land drop next turn, I'd like to get that Mind's Eye down. Seems like a pretty good place to be. I don't think there's really a reason to attack anything at this moment, so we'll just pass like that, leave the Oreskos up as a blocker. And Gisa and Geralf does have a Crypt Breaker and a Grim Haruspex in play. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, draw a card. Yep, so they're probably going to be doing the sack a zombie, replay a zombie, all that sort of stuff. Varina Lich Queen coming into play. Sure. I've talked about this in some videos in the past. Whenever your commander has the words draw cards on it, it's probably pretty good. Even in the case of Varina, where it doesn't give you extra cards per se, you can still loot to the exact cards you want in your hand. It's still very, very good. It reduces the problem of, like, you need a specific card to do something, and the chances of you not finding it go down quite dramatically, so Yeah, just whenever you see draw cards on a commander, it's probably pretty good. Opponent lays down an Underworld Connections. Gains more life. The Johnny's Pride Mate now up to a 7/7. There's a Fleshbag Marauder. I'm fine with that. So, I want to see if opponent does this. They could theoretically time this Crypt Breaker to draw a card before the Fleshbag Marauder resolves. That would be a pretty sweet play. Let's see if they do it. They do not. So, Fleshbag comes in. Everyone has to sack a creature. We sack the Arrest Ghost, Varina, and Johnny's Pride Mate down. That's good news. Slow this game down just a little bit. Fleshbag Marauder and those type of effects, I think, are... People know that they're good, but I don't think people understand just how good they can be. Like, in this exact situation of this, everyone's kind of getting something going early. It slows the game down. It makes the game not just end on, like, turn 6 or 7, so I think effects like that are really important. We draw into an Assemble the Legion. We're actually going to go ahead and play that because Assemble the Legion needs time to be good. So the earlier you can get Assemble the Legion down, the better. Now, the problem is getting it to stick around. You know, as it starts making more and more tokens, it is more likely to draw some removal. Opponents have 14 cards between them, so, and with the ability to draw more, so. But we're going to give it a try. If nothing else, Assemble the Legion can hopefully clear the way for Mind's Eye. Gisa and Geralf coming down for the Varina opponent. Yep. Opponent asking if anyone here's ever had a tie game. I have. I tapped a Heartless once with a damage doubler, and we were all on even life totals. Had to try it for science one time. Plague Belcher coming into play. Put 2- counters on a creature you control. And it says whenever another zombie you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life. There's starting to be more and more of those type of effects on cards, and when you get a handful of zombies and a couple of that effect in play, it's really, really strong. You'll notice that half your life total is missing before you really even do anything, which is not the best. So Oloro trigger and a Johnny Mantra trigger. Yep, Oloro up to 58. So just like I was saying, that person that told me when you play Oloro, yeah, you start at 60 life. Opponent's going to draw a card with the Caves of Koilos. They go down at 57. By caves, I mean the Underworld Connections on the caves. Opponent plays a Thespian Stage. Doesn't look like anything terribly interesting to copy at the moment. Buried Ruin is okay if you need an artifact. Mistveiled Plains if you need to recycle something. But there's a double land right there. Those are cool. Not the worst thing. Yep, opponent's going to copy the double land with the Thespian Stage. So looks like they probably don't have that much else going on. Here comes Gisa and Geralf from the command zone for the Gisa and Geralf opponent. They've got some stuff in their graveyard already. Let's see. Got a Fleshbag Marauder. They've got Death Baron, Ghoulcaller Gisa, Grimgrin, and Geralf's Messenger. Yeah, that's a crew. That is a crew. The Settle the Wreckage, I think, is going to be pretty good because we're dealing with a bunch of graveyard-based zombie decks. So exiling stuff going to be really powerful. And just as we had hoped, opponent sending some creatures into Oloro, so Oloro taking some of the focus right there will be good news for us. One of the things with Assemble the Legion, I really wish that was an on-combat trigger, so that when you play Aurelia or other combat spells, that it would trigger twice in the turn. That would be really, really nice. Sadly, it does not do that. Ooh, we draw a Temple of the False God. That's actually a pretty good draw right here. I'm not a huge fan of Temple. I understand why it's in here, because this is the type of deck that needs to draw more than 5 lands if it's going to win anyway. If it gets stuck on 3 or 4, it's just not going to win. So I understand that, but I've determined that, like, because I use a Maria Shepherd and Sword of the Animus, things like that, I've determined that just having a basic is much better, because I do run out of basics sometimes late in the game, and that's not the best. So now's a good time for the Mind's Eye, and that actually will allow us to draw 2 cards, which would be really good. So hopefully we can get into our next land drop without problem. I know we've already missed at least 1, probably only 1 at this point, but don't want to miss any more than that. So opponent draws a card. Mind's Eye triggers. Dealing with the triggers of Mind's Eye on Magic Online is awful. We draw a Mother of Ruins. Varina coming back into play for the Varina opponent. I decided not to attack, by the way, just because opponents do have some things on board. Just the idea of having a 1/1 that'll block may be enough to deter opponents from attacking into us. And since Oloro has no blockers, I'd really like to keep funneling our opponents toward the Oloro. And that's what they're going to do. So the Plague Belcher going into the Oloro, and that'll trigger the Varina 1 time, and that'll also trigger our Mind's Eye. We draw Plains, excellent, so now we are set up to make our next land drop, and that makes me super happy. So Oloro down to 48, and opponent untaps their Plague Belcher with the Reconnaissance. Oloro trigger and a Johnny's Mantra trigger. Sure. Dimir Cluestone coming down for the Oloro opponent. Ooh, and there's a Necropotence. Let's see how many they go for. If they don't draw a million, then I'm definitely going to shoot it with the Crush Contraband. There's 1. There's 2. I mean, I'll probably have to shoot it anyway, because they gain so much life that they can, like, literally draw their deck. 3, 4, 5. Oh, they have no max hand size. They can draw, like, everything. That's not good. That is not good. 6. Yeah, Necro with no max hand size is busted. Even worse than Oloro because they have so much life. Yep, they're just going to keep doing that. So opponent just went for about 10. So we're going to crush Contraband on the Necro and the Spellbook. In the Spellbook, get rid of their max hand size and make sure that they can't just Necro into Oblivion. There's a Liliana's Heretical Healer. And another Fleshbag Marauder coming into play from the graveyard of the Gisa and Geralf opponent. So we will have to sack our 1 token, sadly. But that's okay, because as long as this thing sticks around, we're going to get more tokens on our next turn. Grim Specs will trigger, and Liliana Heretical Healer will trigger and flip over. I was going to force each player to discard a card. We're going to discard the Mother of Ruins right now. It's a good card, but I just don't have immediate plans for it. And if nothing else, if no wheels or anything, we should be able to get it back with Angel of Serenity if the game goes long enough. Ooh, opponent discards a trading post, which gets exiled, so that's probably a very good thing. No attacks from the zombie opponent. That's the worst. I hate when everyone just sits back like that. Hour of Revelation is the card that you really want right here. It's going to bring it back to our turn. Assembled Legion's going to get another counter and give us 2 tokens. Ooh, we draw into a Soul Ring. That's actually very helpful. So, play the Plains, play the Soul Ring. We're going to play the Crush Contraband. Let's get the Spellbook and the Necro. So, both of those down. We're going to get our Commander and try to set up to do a fairly big hit on the Oloro opponent next turn. Next turn, we're going to get 3 tokens. Hopefully, we'll still have our current tokens. We'll cast Aurelia, and with the double combats, that should be pretty good. So we're going to send our 2 tokens into Oloro. I think that may help opponents to realize that, like, we should probably all be doing that. We get 1 Mind's Eye trigger, and we will pay for that. We draw Plains. I'm a little nervous if Liliana wants to make everyone discard again. Not exactly sure what we're going to get rid of. All 3 Angels in our hand are very good. Don't really want to miss land drops. Settle the Wreckage is very good given our opponents at this point in time. Ooh, an Endless Ranks of the Dead for the Varina opponent. It's slow, but once it gets going, it makes a lot of zombies. Opponent saying, who's the better Necromancer? So Varina going to send both of their creatures into the Oloro. Excellent. Oloro down to 35. Opponent's going to untap their creatures. So Oloro gaining more life on their upkeep is going to put them back to 38. Ugh. So for all the times they've been attacked, it just, I mean, they're still almost at their starting life total. So the thing I like about blowing up their spellbook right there is that they don't have their commander in play, so if they wanted to cast their commander, it means they're not going to be able to cast much else from their hand, and that means they're going to have to discard a lot to hand size. So opponent probably having to make some pretty tough choices right here about what they want to play. They play a Regal Bloodlord. Flying, at the beginning of each end step, if you gain life this turn, create a 1/1 bat creature token with flying. Beginning of each end step, so every turn. That can trigger every turn if they have the cards to gain life every turn. One's going to play a Seal of Cleansing. Not ideal. I bet that comes after the Assemble. Actually, Endless Ranks of the Dead is pretty scary too, though. Ooh, nice, going after the Endless Ranks of the Dead, not our Assemble. That's huge. So, one thing I've noticed is that getting hit with 3 or 4 pieces of spot removal in a game of Commander, it means that you may not be able to win that game of Commander, at least on Magic Online. When I play at the shop, games tend to go a little bit longer and you have more time to recover, and everyone plays a bit more removal, so if everyone's getting hit by stuff, then it's fine. But like if you're the only one getting hit by removal, it really, really hurts. So when you're playing, do everything in your power to not have your stuff get blown up with removal, especially spot removal is the one, because, you know, if it's a board wipe and everyone's getting hurt, yeah, some players get hurt more than others, but if everyone's getting hurt at least a little bit, it's probably fine. But when you're just straight up losing one of your big pieces, it can set you back. I mean, you spent mana to play that card, so you're losing the mana spent on it, you're losing the card itself. It's not great. Liliana, gonna force everyone to discard again. Ooh, here's that tough choice we were talking about. Don't really want to give up the Angel of Serenity just yet. I think it's gonna be the Angel of Serenity, I think. We need to keep hitting lands. There's a Cabal Coffers in play, by the way, for the Gisa and Geralf opponent. I don't think I see any Urborgs, though. What are we discarding? All of these cards are good. You know what? I think it's going to be Settle the Wreckage, because it's still early enough that giving opponents a ton of lands is really bad, and there's like 6 board wipes in this deck, so as long as Mind's Eye sticks around for the next turn, we should be able to draw many more cards and hopefully find another board wipe to keep ourselves protected. Also, no one's really attacked us at all, so Oloro is still the focus at this moment in time. I'm worried that if we slam Avacyn, we might become the focus. Ooh, that's a Mikaeus. Yeah, Mikaeus is good. Maybe we should have kept Settle the Wreckage. I don't know. This Liliana is very close to ultimating. You get an emblem. Whenever a creature you control dies, return to the battlefield under your control at the beginning of the next end step. More or less the Mikaeus ability. Yep. That seems pretty good. So, Oloro, probably not the threat anymore. There's another Fleshbag Marauder. Keep the sacking coming. Oh, that's going to trigger twice. Sacrifice creature. Opponent gets to draw a card. Yeah, okay. So, Gisa and Geralf firmly in the lead right here. Probably needs to come down a notch. So Fleshbag Marauder comes back to play. Grim Haruspex trigger. Another Grim Haruspex trigger. Okay, I think this turn might be Angel of Serenity. Get rid of the Mikaeus. Probably the Gisa and Geralf. And we'll see what else. I think next turn also, I'm going to try to draw as many as possible with the Mind's Eye. There's a lot of different draw triggers on the board right now. So if we can really just get an excessive number of cards in our hand, I think that'll be a good idea. Lord of the Accursed. All zombies get +1/+1 and they can get Menace. Yeah, that's good. No attacks from the zombie opponent. Yeah, I mean, with an army like that, if they're not attacking, they're clearly trying to set up some sort of combo. It's going to bring it back to our turn. Assemble the Legion. Going to continue to trigger. We can get 3 tokens this time. There's an Arch of Oriska. That's a good one. We may need to get... Well, actually, we have the Mind's Eye going, so probably not the most needed. So in that case, I will play the Plains right here. Gonna play the Angel. Oh, there is an Urborg in play. Yeah, opponent's got a lot of mana then. That's kind of scary. And then we can draw 4 with the Mind's Eye. I like that. This will also animate Iroas. So let's get the Lord of the Accursed, Mikaeus, and Gisa and Geralf. I want to send Gisa and Geralf back to the command zone one time, just to get that casting cost up. So Iroas now in creature form. Send Iroas into the Liliana along with a token. And we'll leave everyone else back to block. Opponent forgetting about the Menace ability like everyone always does with Iroas. Trying to do these single blocks. That's not going to work. Opponent gonna double block the Iroas. Sure. Take the Crypt Breaker down. I'm fine with that. Also get rid of their token. So opponent gets to draw a card, which will trigger our Mind's Eye. Excellent. So Mind's Eye will trigger, and we will pay and draw a card. I don't know. Maybe Mind's Eye isn't as bad as I thought. Like I said, it is still really slow. Like, it's not good if you're trying to be fast or mana efficient or anything like that. The fact that we're playing a deck that wants to go big, needs a lot of mana to operate anyway, that's going to work. Also has a lot of board wipes to clear things out. That's what's going to allow it to work. But, I don't know. Maybe it's a card I need to reconsider. Another Mind's Eye trigger on our opponent's turn as they draw a card. And we'll trigger that again. There's a Slayer Stronghold. 3 lands in a row. Not the best. Could use something. I know we have 2 big creatures in our hand, but I would like to find something maybe with some utility, like some removal. It's always good. Always feels good to have some removal around when you need it. Not entirely sure what I'm looking for at this exact second. But, just more gas. Just looking for more gas. Here comes Varina back to play. I think this is the 3rd time they've cast it. Getting pretty expensive. It's going to bring it to Oloro's turn. They're going to gain some life back. It's actually going to put them right back to 40. It's like all that attacking hasn't even done anything. Mind's Eye will trigger one more time. Let's continue to use that. There's a Sunforger. All right, let's take a look at the Sunforger package. We got Boros Charm, Chaos Warp. We already used the Crush Contraband, Dawn Charm, Enlightened Tutor. We already used that. Return to Dust, very helpful. Settle the Wreckage is in the graveyard, but we could recycle it back. Swords of Plowshares, Tithe, and Wild Ricochet. Wild Ricochet is an interesting one. Oh, boy. Divine Intervention enters the battlefield with 2 intervention counters on it. Well, it's a good thing we have Sunforger. Return to Dust still in the deck. Yep, I know people that play this card. There was a guy in my local that played the Lands deck. I mean, just a stupidly expensive deck with, like, Tabernacles and things like that. I think he also played Legacy Lands at times, so... he would kind of switch it between the 2 as he needed. But, yeah, that was generally his win condition, if you want to call it a win condition at all. How much mana are we going to have this turn? We'll be on 12 mana this turn. Let's see. Aurelia is 6. Sunforger is 8. That puts us too short of Aurelia and Sunforger in the same turn. Makes me sad. There's an Elspeth. Sunforger probably more important at this moment in time. Not a lot of things on board, which actually makes Elspeth really good. Well, I guess we need to get the Sunforger down more than we need to do anything, so yeah. Here comes a Grave Titan. That's a pretty good one. Here comes Gisa and Geralf. Sure. Opponent's going to mill 4 more. Puts Grave Pact into the graveyard. That's a good one. Also mills their Reality Shift. That's very fortunate. Exhume. So they mill a bunch of spells that they probably wanted. Catching a break right there. Opponent's going to return a creature with the Liliana. That's going to be the Death Baron. Okay. So all of their zombies have Death Touch. And +1/+1. Opponent going to send their Grim Harry specs into the Oloro. Sure. So that's going to bring it back to our turn. Another Assemble the Legion trigger. 4 more tokens coming in. We draw into a Needle Spires. Let's play the Slayer's Stronghold right here. Yeah, it's Sunforger time. Equip the Sunforger. I'm going to put it on the Angel. Let's see. I'm going to send... We're going to do a little bit of attacking. I'm going to send the Angel into the Liliana. Let's get rid of that. Send Iroas into the Oloro. Maybe we send... We're going to send Iroas into the Gisa and Geralf opponent. We'll send some of the tokens into Oloro. I'm going to leave quite a few back to block, however, though, since there is a pretty sizable zombie army on the loose. Opponent said he's after the Fun Police. We're all trying to figure out who the Fun Police is. It's probably us. I'm blowing stuff up over here, actually playing removal. So Liliana down. Oloro takes a little bit of damage. 7 commander damage on the Gisa and Geralf. Next, we shall Sunforger for Return to Dust. Divine Intervention and Reconnaissance is probably the next best thing. Although Varina opponent hasn't really been able to get anything going, so I don't know. I'm going to say Underworld Connections, I guess. Ooh, we're actually in an awkward spot where I thought we would be able to activate Sunforger one more time, but we are not, so we're just going to have to hope we don't get board wiped. But we can continue to draw more cards, so we'll continue to do that with the Mind's Eye. So if Rita draws a card, we will get a Mind's Eye trigger. There's Zatalpa. Sweet. The card I'm actually looking for is Smothering Tithe. Smothering Tithe is the one that's going to allow us to get everything out of our hand. Also, I think with Smothering Tithe, if you have a Smothering Tithe, you can use Mind's Eye every single time, right? Is that how that works? Seems pretty good. Liliana Vess coming into play. Ooh, Mana Drain on the Liliana Vess. Opponent didn't Mana Drain our Sunforger? Do they not know what's up? Oh, man. Wouldn't be surprised to see Varina scoop right there, quite honestly. They have not been able to get much going. They do have a Commander Sphere that they can sack to draw, but they've also missed land drops, so that is awkward. Yep, all right. So they're going to sack the Commander Sphere to draw a card, looking for anything. That does trigger the Mind's Eye one more time. Keep the draws coming. Wouldn't mind drawing into a Boros Charm right here. 1 in 72 chance. Not a Boros Charm. It's the Smothering Tithe, though. Next turn... we are going to have a good time. We just need to not die. It is turn 10 now, and people are starting to get some stuff going. Or at least the one zombie opponent has a lot of stuff going. So if anyone ends it, it's probably going to be the Gisa and Geralf opponent or us. They are down to 1 card, though. That's good news. Let's see what's in their graveyard. Liliana's in the graveyard. Not a zombie. Fleshbag. Grimgrin, Geralf's Messenger. So a bunch of triggers for Oloro. Still gaining that life. Another Mind's Eye trigger. We're going to pay for that one. Nahiri, nice. Ooh, there's an Exquisite Blood for the Oloro opponent. That is the whenever an opponent loses life, you gain that much life. There's half the combo. Said he doesn't have the second one. Trespasser's Curse. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under enchanted player's control, that player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Probably us with the Assemble the Legion? No, gonna put it on the zombie opponent. Yeah, zombie opponent's gonna make a lot of creatures as well. The Grave Titan floating around and everything coming back from the graveyard. It's going to bring it to Gisa and Geralf's turn. Another Mind's Eye trigger for us. Just going to continue to draw. Draw into a mountain. Opponent gets their Mana Drain trigger. This could be scary. Only 2 cards in hand, but the fact that they can recast things from their graveyard, I don't see a sack outlet, so that's good. This coming turn, I think the plan is going to be Smothering Tithe for the extra mana. Get Sunforger equipped and ready to go. And then probably slam Aurelia and try to protect our position. Protect our position with Sunforger and pound out the damage with Aurelia. I think we need to start getting people out of this game before things start going wrong. Grimgrin, Corpseborn coming into the battlefield. Enters the battlefield tapped and does not untap. Ooh, there's the sack outlet. Ooh. Doesn't have haste yet, so that's good. But that is a free sack outlet. Those do cause problems. Opponent loses some life and Oloro going to start gaining some life. That's a Nevdis coming down. Alright, so we're probably going to have to kill the Gisa and Geralf opponent. I guess we could Sunforger into more removal if we needed to. There's a Gray Merchant. That's going to move the life totals a lot. Opponent's going to gain a lot of life, too. This is going to hurt. See where the life totals end up. Whew. So we lost 9 on the Grey Merchant. Oloro's up to 50. Gisa and Geralf's up to 57. Wow. It's not great. How can we get damage? Aurelia gives us flying damage. The Angel is flying damage. We could use like a Cathar's Crusade or something, but we really need that in play at the start of the turn. We could exile the Nev's Disc is the thing that we could do. Opponent going to go full scale on us. Okay. Do we have life gain? 18, 21. Opponent's coming in for 21. We're going to have to block some of it. Block the Grave Titan. Obviously, that's the biggest. Block. Double block the Grim Haruspex so that it dies. They may just be able to actually double block on the Death Baron, so that'll get rid of the Anthem effect. Let's think about how much damage we can actually do. So we're going to have 5 tokens coming next turn. We have 4 in play, so that'll be 9 tokens with Aurelia, that's 18 damage, plus 10 more from the Angel, that's 28, plus 14 more from Iroas, will be 42, plus 6 from Aurelia is 48. It still puts us a teeny bit short. Ooh, we have a Sunforger. What did I say? 48 plus we can get 8 more from... Yeah, okay. So if we go like this, we'll have... That'll put 56 damage on the zombie opponent. Oloro will gain a massive amount of life, but what can you do? That being the case, then, I'm not going to double block. I'm just going to single block everything and just try to preserve as much life as we can. So block the biggest ones. Oh, opponent does have some blockers, though. Opponent's going to untap their Grimgrin, so that gives them 2 blockers. Okay, so opponent has 1 block that they can do. We do have 7 commander damage on our opponent. I don't know that we can get Iroas through for lethal. Maybe we can. Maybe we just go with Iroas. So if we put Sunforger on Iroas, it'll be an 11. 11 means it still needs to hit twice. If we put Sunforger plus Slayer's Stronghold, that'd be plus 6. That makes it a 13. 13 makes it 1 short. Oh, that's frustrating. All right, that's not going to work. We draw more lands, not helpful. Play Zamaria in this deck. No Emeria in this deck, so it doesn't necessarily matter which lands we lay down. Play the Arch, just in case. So anyway, we look at it. Because the opponent has blockers, man, I really wish there was a Sulphurous Blast in this deck. Sulphurous Blast would be so good right here to clear out those 2 zombies. You do it during combat. Okay, so step 1 is going to be Smothering Tithe. We need to get Sunforger equipped for the protection. I really want to get Avacyn down. Avacyn would be sweet. Could Elspeth and destroy all the big... no, we don't want to do that with Angel of Serenity. Well, I guess after Avacyn it would be fine. Yeah, maybe it's still just... Get the Sunforger equipped. We have 8 mana left. 1 floating. Oh, I know. We Sunforger so that when they blow the Nev's Disc... All right, yeah, that works. So Sunforger, use Boros Charm to protect ourselves from the Nev Disc. And that's a free board wipe, basically. So, all right. And I'm actually going to leave some mana open. So we could cast Aurelia, but I want to leave mana open. Send Iroas into the zombies. The Angel into the zombies. Ooh, one thing we have to watch out for, if opponent attacks with Grimgrin, then they can put the Destroy trigger on the Angel. We'll send a couple tokens in, too, for good measure. If we can get opponent to draw some cards. All right, ideally we can get some Smothering Tithe triggers right here. Nope, opponent just going to take all that. They go to 14 commander. Wow. Oloro gaining some life. So opponent down to 37, 14 commander. We could exile the Grimgrin. We could use Sunforger to play a Swords on the Grimgrin, which isn't the worst idea. Okay, maybe we use Nahiri to exile the Nev's Disc. Yeah, I like this. So get Sunforger. Swords of Plowshares on the Grimgrin. We would need to get 1 token to leave up Boros Charm. I think we try it. So re-equip the Sunforger. Gonna hope that we get 1 treasure token. Got to discard the hand size, get rid of the tap land, Mind's Eye and a Smothering Tithe trigger. Nice! Opponent doesn't pay. Oh, we're in good shape now. We are in good shape now. Gonna have to skip that Mind's Eye trigger right there, though. Varina going on the attack against the Oloro. Sure. That'll do the looting thing. That is good for our Smothering Tithe. So put Mind's Eye on first, then Smothering Tithe. That way if they don't pay, we can draw a card. There's a pretty good little combo. That might be something that gives Mind's Eye more value than it previously had, is the combo with Smothering Tithe. So we'll sack one, draw a card. There's Inferno Titan. Ooh. Inferno Titan reasonable at clearing out some of the zombie infestation over here. So Oloro takes 4 commander, goes down to 76 from the Varina. Gonna untap with a reconnaissance, sure. Oloro and Johnny's Mantra continuing to trigger. How much life have they gained? Smothering Tithe and Mind's Eye will trigger. We get another treasure token. I'm actually not going to draw with Mind's Eye right here. We have plenty of gas. We just need mana to be able to cast it while holding up all of our stuff. We've just about outdrawn everyone in the game. Gisa and Geralf has milled and has seen more of their library than us, but we're still at 66 cards in our library, which is... we're ahead of 2 Esper decks, so... the power of Mind's Eye, just turn after turn when you're not really under any pressure to dying to things. Opponent's going to cast their commander, Oloro finally coming into play. Cluestone coming down, sure. So that brings it to Gisa and Geralf's turn. Smothering Tithe trigger, and Mind's Eye trigger. Ooh, opponent going to pay for the Smothering Tithe. Well, it is too little too late, opponent. We have Sunforger with 2 open mana, and that's about all we need. Now I just need to wait for you to crack that Nev's disc, and life will be grand. So not going to pay for the Mind's Eye right here. Trying to bank just a little bit of mana. Here comes Crypt Breaker. Sure. It's going to trigger the Trespasser's Curse. Opponent up to 80. Get more triggers flying around. Apprentice Necromancer coming into play. Sacrifice it. Return target creature from the graveyard to the battlefield. Gains haste. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. Ooh, how much black mana does opponent have? They bring back the Gray Merchant? Could be an issue. Well, that itself doesn't have haste, so I think we're okay. Do need to get this zombie opponent out of the game, though. More Oloro triggers. Opponent going to swing with Gisa and Geralf and Grave Titan. It's going to make 2 more zombies. I think they're swinging with Gisa and Geralf because they have no problem. They have the mana to recast it, and they're probably trying to mill themselves more to find more things. So with that being the case, I'm just going to chump block both. Oloro and Exquisite Blood trigger 3 times off the Trespasser's Curse and the zombies coming in. Maybe it was twice. So we block both. No harm, no foul. We're going to get 6 tokens this turn. That's going to be good with the pile of tokens that we already have stacked up here. Opponent's going to Crypt Breaker. They're going to lose 1 life and draw a card. Sure. Mind's Eye and Smothering Tithe trigger. Get another treasure token. Still not drawing, as I mentioned. Really need to stockpile some mana. We have the tools, we just need to be able to play them. Opponent gonna Crypt Breaker again. More triggers. Unfortunately, opponent still they have 2 total blocks that they can make, which would be just enough to stop Iroas from getting there with commander damage. More Smothering Tithe triggers. Well, opponent tapping out more stuff. Now Iroas is free and clear. This actually opens up an avenue for us. This makes it so we can just send Iroas into the zombie opponent, and we can send everything else at the Oloro opponent. So we have 5 treasure tokens now. Not too bad. Also, Smothering Tithe... where is it? Also, Smothering Tithe has a nice little combo with Treasure Map, if you're running that card. Once you get it flipped over, you can use the additional treasure tokens to draw more cards. So that is pretty cool. Liliana Untouched by Death. Well, I haven't seen this one. Well, not much we can do about it, so I guess we can let it resolve. But +1, put the top 3 cards of your library in the graveyard. If at least one of them is a zombie, each opponent loses 2 life, and you gain 2 life. Target creature gets -X till end of turn, where X is the number of zombies you control. Uh-oh. And you may cast zombie cards from your graveyard this turn. Let's see what they go for. Shooting Iroas would be bad. Hopefully they shoot the Angel in hopes of getting their stuff back. Can actually live with that one. Oh, opponent's blowing the Nev disc. Nope. Really, opponent? Have you never seen this trick before? Sunforger time! Get the Boros Charm. Permanents we control gain indestructible. Oh, they got a counterspell. All right. Looks like the game's starting over. We can sacrifice the Commander Sphere to draw a card. Let's go ahead and do that. Well played, opponent. Well played. Drawn to a Solemn Simulacrum. Iroas is thankfully indestructible. Yeah. Everything getting blown up. Luckily, Iroas is still in play. All we have to do is attack the zombie opponent, and they die. So actually, I think we're still okay. We lost a lot of our stuff, but, you know. We have a handful of really big things. Oloro stuff gets blown away. Oloro, light on lands. Let's see, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lands for a total of 8 mana on the Oloro opponents. They've missed, what, 4 land drops? That's rough. We're on 9 lands. We've missed 2 land drops, although I don't know if that we've taken our turn 11 yet. So maybe just 1 land drop. I think that would make sense. But we do have a double land in there. Lord of the Undead coming into play. Sure. Carrion Feeder coming into play. Sure. Just bring it back to my turn. That's all I want. That's going to bring it back to our turn. We get the Arcane Denial trigger. Use the ability, draw 2. So we draw a bunch of stuff. There's Vandal Blast. Don't really need that. Let's play a Plains. Make sure we have enough white mana. Step 1, cast Aurelia. Oh, we need more loyalty to animate Iroas. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That means Signet and Nahiri. Loot. Pitch one of these lands. We can work toward Gisela as the thing that we use the ultimate on if we want to. Go to combat. Aurelia into the Oloro. Iroas into the Gisa and Geralf. Aurelia triggers. Second combat step will happen. Opponent eats the commander damage, goes to 21. They go down, finally, putting some real thorns in our side in this game. And then we'll send both into the Oloro. They have so much life. We're going to be here for a while, poking away at them. It's going to bring it to our end step. We have to discard a card. Vandal Blast. I don't think we need Vandal Blast at this point in time. Opponent putting up a real fight for us, but luckily we drew so much with that Mind's Eye that we had a lot of tools available, things like Sunforger and everything else, and able to keep them in check just long enough, prevent the combos from going off. And finally getting there with commander damage, so hooray for that. Here comes Varina, back to play for the, was that 4th time? Ooh, lot of mana. a lot of mana. A Nykthos would not be the worst thing in this deck. I don't know if it's in here. Let's take a look. No Nykthos. Because you want Devotion, Nykthos would probably be a reasonable inclusion in the deck. We'd be able to generate just a little bit of extra mana, because right now, I mean, this deck is really mana intense. This Avacyn's been sitting in our hand all game. Aurelia's been in our hand all game, waiting to finally get it down. Turn 12 took us to get that thing down. The deck is a little clunky on the back end, but that does mean when you get to this position where, okay, board's wiped, it's late in the game, we're ready to just keep slamming big stuff. And if our opponents are more of a mid-range deck, then we're going to be able to go just way over the top of what they're doing. Sanguine Sacrament, you gain twice X lives. Oh my god, the life gain. The life gain. Would have loved to have gotten Avacyn down at some point earlier than we did, but I think we kind of needed to make all the plays that we did in the order that we made them, so Avacyn wasn't really on the table as a result. We would have had to get her down way back. One of those turns where all we were doing was Mind's Eye. We draw into Stoneforge Mystic. That's actually really cool because we can put Sunforger back in the bottom of our library, grab it with Stoneforge Mystic, and do that whole game, and we may end up doing that. But how much mana do we have? We have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Could be better. Anything interesting land-wise that we can get with the thingy, with Expedition Map? Sunhome is okay. Actually, Sunhome double strikes Iroas. We commander damage Oloro out of the game. Yeah, that sounds like a plan. Let's do that. So, Expedition Map. Crack Expedition Map. Get Sunhome Fortress of the Legion. Play Sunhome Fortress of the Legion. Go to combat. Aurelia into the Varina. Varina doesn't have flying. Correct. Varina does not have flying. Iroas into the Oloro. Aurelia will trigger. Sunhome on the Iroas. And who says no one ever dies to commander damage? That's 2 players down to commander damage. So, Oloro going down to commander damage. What do we got? We've got... Oh, we can attack one more time. Yep, send both. Opponent takes the hit, goes to 14 life and 14 commander damage. Brings it to our second main phase. I think we just go... We only have 5 mana, which is not enough for the Inferno Titan. So I think we just play the Solemn Simulacrum right here. Get a land with the Solemn Simulacrum. Get a Plains. Loot one time with Nahiri. Discard the mountain. Draw into another mountain. And pass turn. Varina gonna need something big. Creature board wipe doesn't quite do it, because we should have enough devotion in our hand to reactivate Iroas. They would need, like, Toxic Deluge would be good. Something with minus counters on it, but like Wrath of God, Damnation, those wouldn't really work right here. Treachery would be a good one. Something like that. They have steal effects. What does opponent have? Empty the Pits X11.
Create X tapped 2/2 zombies. Well, those are going to be a little bit late. Opponent going to swing with the Varina Lich Queen. Varina Lich Queen. They do gain 1 life. They loot 1 card. We'll block with the Sad Bot. We get to draw a card. It's a Chaos Warp. Good one. Play the Mountain. Go to combat. This should do it. And down they go. That is 3 players killed with commander damage. Yeah, let's keep commander damage in the format. Ooh, they had the Rooftop Storm. Yep. Well, I can reveal our hand too. We had a lot of stuff. Yeah. So late game Iroas, killing 3 players with commander damage. Yeah. So this deck. Again, this deck was submitted to me by Chris Bates on Twitter. I put up a post that I was looking for Iroas decks. I was looking for well-tuned Iroas decks. I wanted to see what people were doing, and he's actually the only one that responded to the Twitter post, at least with a deck list anyway. But like I said, I've been checking Tapped Out for Iroas lists, and people try to do the opposite of what this list is doing. People try to do the 1 mana creatures, 2 mana creatures, 3 mana creatures, turn them all sideways. You can't do 120 damage with those. You need bigger things in your deck. And, you know, your mana curve gets all messed up the second you play a mana rock of any kind. So it's much better to try to be either a mid-range or late-game type of deck and build your deck to have removal, to have ramp, to have things you need to be doing to combat your opponents. And that's what he's done with this deck here. Now, after playing it, it did feel a teeny bit clunky, but that was also a lot in part due to this Mind's Eye. Mind's Eye, interesting card, could probably do an entire video on what Mind's Eye means. We did have good results with it right here. I did have good results with it the other day, too, when I was playing another Iroas deck. So Mind's Eye can be good, but I think the idea is you want to be set up to go late, to have a lot of removal, to have a lot of board wipes, so that you can draw for a couple turns, wipe the board. Like you guys saw, we didn't really start mounting any kind of solid board position until, I don't know, turn 9, turn 10. That's a pretty long time. That's a long time to be waiting to do anything, especially with a Boros deck. So if you're going to be running Mind's Eye, you're going to want to be aware of that. Like I said, it did feel a little bit clunky. There are a lot of 7 drops. We got 7 7 drops, 10 6 drops, and 3 8 drops. So that makes 20 combined cards at 6 mana or greater. That is a sizable amount. But there is plenty of mana ramp in the deck. Things like Smothering Tithe, which are absolutely awesome. I'm sad that didn't get to stick around for a couple more turns, because if we untap with it right there, we would have coughed out probably most of our hand, or at least a lot of big stuff with haste. The Mind's Eye was really, really interesting. Again, slows everything down a lot, but this deck is primed to go late, and this deck was able to go late really well. Now, what I thought was interesting is that we did kill 3 players with commander damage in that game. I love Iroas, but Iroas isn't someone that I naturally envisioned getting the commander damage in, because even with the Menace and even with the Prevent All Damage ability, you think that someone would still probably have 2 tokens that they would throw in front of Iroas to prevent getting commander damaged out of the game. But our opponent's not really able to do that today, so that was very, very interesting. I wouldn't have expected that Iroas is really someone that you're going to get there with commander damage, at least against 3 separate opponents, like maybe 1 opponent and then, 2 other ones. But yeah, that actually worked out really, really well. One of the things that I've noticed playing a lot of Iroas decks over the past week is that Iroas is at its best when you cast Aurelia, because with Aurelia and Iroas in play, you need 1 additional red or white source in play to have Iroas as a creature, and then they both attack, and then they both do tons and tons of damage. Aurelia and Iroas pair together so unbelievably well, because even when I play my Aurelia decks, I usually feel pretty good once Iroas is in play, and you can start attacking with both of them. It just does a lot. Another interesting one I want to talk about is Assemble the Legion. This is an interesting card. Shows up in a lot of Boros lists. It's not a bad card, but without support, I don't think it's a good card either. We played that Assemble the Legion, I believe it was turn 5, and it stuck around until, I think, turn 11, and it gave us a lot of blockers. It made it so opponents couldn't really attack in profitably, which is cool, and there is value to that. However, we weren't really able to be very threatening with it either. I would have to go back and look, but we didn't do tons and tons of damage with Legion tokens. We mostly used them to block, and of all the times I've played Assemble the Legion, that's generally the feeling that I get from it. It's usually a little bit too slow to be super threatening, unless you have something like an Anointed Procession or a Cathar's Crusade. Stuff like that will obviously make it very good. But without that kind of support, I don't know. Assemble the Legion, like I said, it wasn't bad. It gave us a lot of blockers, but it wasn't exactly good either. We weren't really able to push through our opponent, just that they weren't really able to break through our line either. So, I've had mixed feelings on Assemble the Legion. If you draw it late, if you draw it on turn 8 or 9 of a game that's only going to go 9 or 10 turns, it's not very good. You'd be much happier just with like a 5-drop creature that's threatening a Sunscorched Regent or, Heartless or even in the Heb or something like that. Would be much better later in the game. So Assemble the Legion is okay early, but it needs to stick around. It may not give you the damage that you're necessarily looking for. It gives you a lot of blockers. Like I said, it's not a bad card, but without support, I think I would probably run something else in that slot instead. Another thing that I would like to see instant speed red board wipes because of the Iroas ability. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to attacking creatures you control. Things like a Sulphurous Blast would have been awesome against the zombie opponents late in the game. You get that with the Sunforger, you wipe away most of the zombies, and they don't have that much left. All your stuff is fine. Volcanic Fallout is decent. I really like Sulphurous Blast, though, for that 3 damage. 3 really hits a lot of zombie type of decks. 3 is a very good number of damage to be doing. One of the things to think about, too, is I've seen some people running Gratuitous Violence, which I think is great in Iroas. Doubling up the damage and also gives you triple red for the Devotion, which is sweet, and it's an enchantment, so, not a huge likelihood that it's going to get removed. I think in an Iroas deck, I want to see, all of the damage doubling enchantments. If your attacking creatures aren't taking damage, I think you just want as much damage flying around the board as possible. Now, blocking is a little bit scarier, and that may be a reason that you want to assemble the Legion around just to have some blockers, but I want to see more damage doubling in a lot of the Iroas decks that I've looked at. This one has a little bit. It has Aurelia for the extra combat step, has Gisela for the damage doubling. But yeah, I would probably add 1 or 2 more of that type of effect to this deck. One that I'm not in love with is Hour of Devastation, because that would actually kill Iroas if it's in creature form. It seems a little bit of like a non-bow. Now, if there's specific meta things where you need to get rid of indestructible stuff, I get it. Makes total sense. Obviously, you would try to play it in a way where it hurts your opponent and doesn't hurt you. Other than that, I think it's fairly straightforward. You got a couple of Planeswalkers in this deck. Chandra Torch of Defiance, that's an interesting one. I think I want to check that out because it is mana ramp, it is removal if you need it to be, and you can look at some extra cards. It's a lot of abilities. A lot of abilities in that. I don't know if it's in there for the ultimate, but just even to get something that's going to ramp you a little bit more. Obviously going to be much better in a creature light meta. If your opponents are really combo-y, it's probably going to be a better place to be. Wild Ricochet is always an interesting one. I've run it at times. I've never had great success with it. Granted, I haven't run it a lot recently with my newer builds. It always just seems like it's kind of sitting there for me. I think a lot of the really good spells in the game don't target, let's say, Demonic Tutor or Cultivate or things like that. Swords of Plowshares, on the other hand, does, but it just never seems to come up that I have a Wild Ricochet exactly when I want it, or I have it when I don't need it. It seems to be usually the issue for me. But overall, I like the concept of this deck. I like this late game Iroas build, and Iroas is a little bit awkward in that you play him on turn 4, most of the time he's not going to be a creature, and even on turn 5 he may still not be a creature. It does take you several turns to get the devotion you need for Iroas, and if you're trying to do it with 2-drop creatures, well, those 2-drop creatures die really easily, and if someone just plays a Lightning Bolt, not that anyone plays Lightning Bolt in Commander, but if they did, any instant speed removal at all, on your 2-drop, let's say in I don't know, a Pure Steel Paladin or something, and, then Iroas is at a creature form, and you're going to lose that entire attack right there, so, I think you want to have a number of enchantments in play to keep Iroas in creature form so that it won't just get blown out by you losing a 2-drop or something like that. And again, like I said, it takes time to get that much devotion into play, so I really don't think you should be trying to play Iroas at the 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop, turn them all sideways kind of deck, and then turn 5 someone plays a board wipe and you cry and you go home. But yeah, so really sweet deck. Not exactly how I would build it, but I definitely like the concept of it. A lot of ramp, got a decent amount of card draw, especially for a Boros deck. Lots of board wipes, gotta have all the board wipes. Also not a huge fan of Sunblast Angel. I never seem to hit as many things as I want to with it. I've come to like Angel of the Dire Hour more because it doesn't matter, because it just matters that they're attacking and it exiles. So that's a pretty cool one. But a lot of 7-drops already, so I can understand why they wouldn't necessarily have gone that route. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this look at Iroas. I do have some additional content coming out about Boros and Iroas, so stay tuned for that. And as always, feel free to comment, like, or subscribe. Thank you for watching.